oldest Pokemon debate has been solved by game theory.
Pokemon sizes make absolutely zero sense. The fearsome Charizard, yeah, it stands at a measly 5'7".
Holy crap, he's barely taller than me. Barely taller than me.
He's just 3'11".
He's a tiny boy.
Disney rides.
He's a tiny boy.
You know, the Pokemon that's based on a ferret is supposedly 6 feet long.
Yeah, ferrets are nowhere near that long. And bigger than Charizard. Holy crap.
The point. The sizes listed in the Pokedex are all over the place. But there's one Pokemon that takes the insanity and turns it up to 11. The float whale Pokemon, Wailord.
Yes. Yes.
This guy is
I mean, he's gonna be big. But holy crap. Hopefully not too big.
And all of it stems from one simple question. Is Wailord lighter than air? Seems like a weird thing to
Huh,
ask about
that is a weird thing to ask.
long whale, right? Wrong. Once you look at the rest of the numbers, you see how this has become one of the most controversial topics in all the Pokeverse. So today we're going to be coming up with a definitive answer. Has the internet hit rock bottom, or is everyone else, including this Pokemon, full of hot air?
So wait, yeah, how can it be lighter than air? That's one thing I'm wondering.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, where today we're going back to our roots, applying real-world research to fictional worlds. Break out the Pixel Rulers class, because today we're overanalyzing the disturbing science of Pokemon. And no, I am not talking about how a tiny Skitty and a giant Wailord are meant to breed.
Oh, what? Wait, how the hell is that gonna happen? How the hell did that become a thing? Wow.
Foot Alolan Executor. At least, not yet. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
Wailord is light. Like, stupidly light. As I mentioned in the cold open, Wailord's Pokedex entries confused fans since it was first introduced in Gen 3. You see, Wailord's weight is listed...
Damn, I've been out of this thing for that long? Holy crap.
...at 877.4 pounds, or about 198 kilograms.
Okay, that's not too heavy.
One of the heaviest Pokemon in the entire series, but it is comically light when you compare it to your typical whale. Blue whales, the thing that Wailord is based on, usually weighs somewhere between 290 and 330,000 pounds.
Wow, yeah, that's a big change.
50,000 kilos, practically 350 times the weight of your standard Wailord.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Heavy, but not too heavy, you know? However, where things get controversial is when you factor in Wailord's other measurements. Wailord's quote-unquote height is listed at 47 feet, or 4.5 meters.
Okay.
He's massively big for not a lot of weight.
That's the thing.
To speculate that Wailord may in fact be the lightest Pokemon in all the games relative to his size.
Like, yeah, weight to size ratio.
Lighter than air. The argument's been so heated, in fact, that it eventually spawned a real research paper from a real university in the UK. And their conclusion? Yep, Wailord is, in fact, lighter than air.
Just based on his weight.
Got yourself a big old whale balloon. Reddit, though, they weren't buying it because...
Yeah, Reddit never does. Reddit is never happy.
Arguing the exact opposite, that no, Wailord is not lighter than air. So today, loyal theorists, we're going to be putting an end to this seismic debate. We're crunching the numbers ourselves to see who's right, who is wrong.
This is just going to cause so much drama. So much drama.
All of us were super nerdy. Will Wailord be sailing the seven seas or floating amongst the clouds like a Thanksgiving Day parade balloon?
A little bit of both. What about a little bit of both?
Leave your theories in the comments below.
What about a little bit of both?
So how does one go about proving whether a fictitious whale is able to float through the air? Well, it all comes down to a little scientific principle called density.
Yes.
Density is the measure of how much mass something has per unit of volume.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Two cubes of equal volume, one made of lead and the other made of wood. The cube of lead would weigh more and thus be more dense.
It's more dense for its size, yes.
Into a fluid that's less dense than it, say water, the cube will sink to the bottom. If I drop the cube of wood into the water, meanwhile, it would float since wood is less dense than water. It's all pretty self-explanatory stuff. It's also pretty darn easy to calculate. All you need to do is divide the mass by the volume and bam, you've got yourself the density. Classic
boom, bitty, bitty, bam, bam, bam.
DMV.
DMV. Oh god, DMV, where dreams go to die.
Voltorb is a nice round sphere, so figuring out its volume should be quick. According to the Pokedex, Voltorb has a height of 0.5 meters or 1 foot 8 inches.
Oh, okay.
Its radius is half that, so 0.25 meters. And the formula for the volume of a sphere is V equals 4/3 pi r cubed. So plug it in.
I remember that. I hated that. But I remember that.
All you need to do to figure out Voltorb's density is take that listed mass of 10.4 kilograms and divide it by the volume that we just got to get a density of 160 kilograms per cubic meter.
That seems like a lot.
Density of air, which is 1.293 kilograms per cubic meter, we can see that Voltorb's definitely not floating away on the breeze. But the density of water,
of course he wouldn't.
Higher, 1,000 kilograms per cubic meter.
Holy crap.
Voltorb would actually float on the water, despite him being a giant metal ball. Which means in real life, you'd probably be able to teach your Voltorb how to use surf. That being said, this
would be a good idea.
Math, right? Here's the problem with
because
Wailord.
He's electric.
Unlike Voltorb, who's a perfectly shaped sphere, Wailord is a blimp-shaped whale. And finding his volume
He'd be a blimpy boy. Hey there, blimpy boy.
Let's look at how both sides of this Poke puzzle tried to solve the problem. First, there's this paper written by William Farmer, a student at the University of Leicester who wrote an undergraduate research paper in the school's Journal of Interdisciplinary Science Topics. I gotta say, love the fact that this debate's been going on for so long that the kids who used to argue about it on the playground are now old enough to write published research.
They're arguing about it through science.
A man after my own heart. Or looking for a job, feel free to apply for theorist script writer. Anyway, he calculated Wailord's size using pixel measurements in a classic theorist move. And he used a cylinder to estimate Wailord's base shape, claiming that the overestimates here, these empty parts where the cylinder is bigger than the body, those would help account for the parts that stick out like his tail and his fins. The volume of the cylinder amounts amounts to pi r squared h. So pi times the radius of the cylinder multiplied
That's actually pretty smart. That's actually a pretty smart way of doing it.
by the cylinder's height. So with a Wailord cylinder height of 14.5 meters and a radius at 2.855 meters, he figured out that Wailord's volume would be around 370 cubic meters, making the density 1.08 kilograms per cubic meter, which is lighter than air at 1.93.
Just barely,
So
but yeah,
pretty
it's
close,
lighter than
right?
air.
No. You see, despite this coming from an academic journal, the paper makes a lot of assumptions about Wailord's shape and volume.
Okay.
For a more precise solution. This post comes from the R Pokemon subreddit by user PetsGotMiju, who also used pixel measurements, but this time refined Wailord's estimated shape. Instead of just reducing it down to a simple cylinder, they instead decided to add a hemisphere to each end of the shape. That way, they didn't need to explain away as much empty space. They also recognized that pixel measurements tend to be slightly inconsistent across different games, and so they tried to correct for that as well. This led their estimate for
Oh wow,
Wailord's
that's very
radius to be
scientific.
smaller, 2.2 meters as opposed to 2.8. Their cylinder length then was 8 meters, leaving about 2.1 meters on each end for the tail and the head. In total, this refined equation where they added up the volume of the cylinder and two hemispheres gave them a significantly smaller volume, only 166.24 cubic
That
meters.
is significantly smaller.
The academic paper
Yeah, that is
divide
significantly
Wailord's mass
smaller.
of 398 kilos by 166, and you get 2.39.
So he's
kilograms per
denser
cubic
than
meter,
air.
which is nearly double the density of air and a vastly different conclusion than the academic paper. With numbers like that, your float whale Pokemon here, he ain't floating anywhere. So, which is right? Well, off the bat, the Reddit approach seems to be the more accurate method. While both options are assuming certain parts of Wailord's shape, the Reddit one is taking precautions by doing multiple calculations to account for the nuances of both his shape and
But those might be wrong too.
across games.
Those might be wrong
My
too.
friends, I am on Team Reddit for this one, but you guys know I'm not going to just leave it there. These calculations, they're not perfect. Between its little grooves, its crevices, and the giant fins and tail, there is no perfect shape to truly describe what a
Yeah,
Wailord
that's the
is.
thing.
It's not a cylinder shape, it's not an ellipsoid shape, it's just a Wailord shape. This is where our two density debaters get into trouble. But what also complicates things is that the scale of Wailord, it's never been consistent. Since Wailord is so much larger than just about every other Pokemon in the game, it's always shrunken down so it can fit within the confines of the system, the
okay.
battlefield, or the screen. And with Wailord
That
being
makes
so
sense.
large, any amount of estimation error gets exaggerated to become a whale-sized problem. Without factoring in that sort of inconsistency, who knows? It might conclude something insane, like saying Wario is 10 feet tall or something ridiculous like that. As a result,
Fart
when
rock.
dealing with pixel measurements, they might not be the best tool to give us the most accurate numbers in this instance. So, how do we get the most accurate results and settle this
How
debate
do
once and
you?
for all?
Damn, those are
Well,
big
words
teeth.
of Patrick Starr.
We have technology.
Since
We
the
have
release
the
of both Reddit
technology.
post and the research paper, Wailord has
We
made a
have
switch to
the money.
Switch with Pokemon Sword and Shield. In the Isle of Armor DLC, we finally get to see Wailord in all his blubbery glory.
Holy
just
crap.
as Arceus intended, which means that we finally have access to a full 3D model of this Pokemon.
That
No
is
more pixel
true.
Measurements based on weirdly angled sprites required. This means that we can take this new 100% accurate 3D model and import it into a 3D modeling program like Blender. While this
Ooh.
program is typically used for creating 3D models, it also allows you to do things like measure the volume of your, or in this case, Game Freak's creations. Therefore, as long as we have the proper scaling figured out, we can use Blender's built-in tools to get the exact volume of a Wailord. No
Oh, wow.
estimates
That's
required,
actually pretty damn
including
good.
the tails and fins. Now,
Holy
at this
crap.
point, everyone's been using Wailord's Pokedex height to measure his length. It sounds confusing.
Well,
but it's actually a
that's
common
very-
portion of
yeah,
Pokedex.
it's
Sometimes
common,
it means
but it's
vertical
very,
height,
very
but other
bad.
times, especially when you're talking about long Pokemon like Wailord, it means length. But just to make sure that we didn't get the math wrong, I wanted to be extra careful. So I took a look at every depiction of Wailord that we've ever been given, like the size comparison tool from Generation 4, or the player
Oh,
character
wow.
standing next to Wailord in Sword and Shield. Given that the trainers in
His
the series
butt.
are usually around 5 foot
Focus
4
on his
inches,
butt.
there's no way that Wailord's 47-foot height in the Pokedex could refer to anything other than his length. So
Yeah.
once settled, I was able to make sure that our Blender whale was scaled correctly, and by creating a mesh for him, we can use Blender's volume calculator to tell us that Wailord has a volume of 182.85.
So Reddit was really close.
Meters precisely. No estimates, no assumptions. That is the exact.
So
number.
Reddit was
Now,
really
all we have to
close.
do is divide
Reddit was
Wailord's
actually pretty
398
close.
kilograms by his volume to get a definitive density. Drum roll, please.
Oh god, that was a bad drum roll.
Gotta admit, I don't know what we gotta do at this point.
It's a drum and it's rolling. Okay. Why did you do that? Why would you do that?
Pull out all the expenses next time. I want a drum roll that will melt minds. Promise? Yo, see, I put you in the shaving episode, so you better promise me. Thank you. Whereas oh yeah, his true density. Wailord's true density is 2.18 kilograms per cubic meter.
So,
which means that I can
yeah.
now say without a shadow
So
of a
Reddit
doubt
was
that
pretty
Wailord
close.
is not lighter than air. Even if you don't include Wailord's tail in the overall calculation, it still wouldn't be enough to get him airborne. And honestly,
wow.
all this checks out. Wailord being lighter than air would have broken the other information that the Pokedex tells us about
That's
him.
very
Wailord's
true.
Pokedex entries going all the way back to Sapphire tell us that Wailord can knock out prey by the shock
Ah,
of its
leaping
flash,
out of
which, you know,
water,
is
okay.
Pretty hard to do when you're so light you can't even hit the water.
Yeah,
there you have
that
it,
makes
my friends.
sense.
The debate is finally squashed. Wailord is not lighter than air. Reddit was right. Not completely, obviously, but their conclusion was pretty darn close.
Yeah,
to
I mean,
it.
they had the right
Just have to
conclusion,
float
just the
off the
bad,
sky to
bad
Team
math.
Rocket.
Bad math.
And
Well, there
that
goes
was all.
Wailord.
Tune in next time when we calculate how the density of Cosmoem would end the known universe.
What? That is insane. Okay, so what do you guys think? I mean, I would not be able to do anything related to that when it comes to density or any of that kind of stuff. I would not be able to at all. So I do appreciate that people like Game Theory and other people like that are able to go that far into the whole thing and make a blender shape and look at everything possible to get as close as you possibly can to the exactness of it all. Now, I wouldn't spend that much time, but Game Theory always does those things, and that's why I enjoy watching Game Theory. It's not it's science. It's not just a theory, it's science now. Thank you so much. Let me know down below if you enjoyed this, want me to watch more of this, or just think this is just plain insane. What do you think about Wailord? Is Pokemon still relevant? Next time on Dragon Ball Z. Bye-bye!